Since reading Skin in the Game, I've started asking one question before I listen to anyone. Do they have anything to lose if they're wrong? Hey, I'm Shaheen, and along with my friend Hussein, we run this channel where we talk about the books we read, not summarizes, just honest reviews, personal reactions, and how these books actually mess with our heads, or change the way we see things. Today is Skin in the Game by Nassim Taleb, a book that seriously made me rethink who I trust, who I listen to, and even how I take responsibility in my own life. Let's get into it. Before we dive into what hit me the most in this book, let's talk real quick about the guy who wrote it. Nassim Nicholas Taleb is not your typical author. He's a former option trader, a statistician, and a bit of philosopher. But more than that, he's someone who actually lived the ideas he writes about. He's best known for his series book called Incerto, which include The Black Swan, Antifragile, and of course Skin in the Game. Each one is like a punch to the way you normally think. They challenge conventional wisdom, and they don't care about sounding polite. Skin in the Game is all about the simple but powerful idea. If someone's giving you advice, making decisions, or shaping system, but they don't personally suffer the consequences if they're wrong, then you probably shouldn't trust them. The book dives into the politics, financial, ethics, religion, and even everyday life, and asks one big question: are you taking risks, or are you just talking? So let me tell you a story. Imagine you're about to cross a rope bridge in the mountains. It's sketchy, it's swinging in the wind, and there's a guy next to you who says, "Don't worry, it's totally safe. I checked it." You ask, "Cool, have you crossed it?" And he goes, "Oh, no, I don't do that. I just design braids." Now tell me, how much do you trust that guy? That's exactly what Skin in the Game is about. It's a book by Nassim Taleb, and at its core, it's built on this one powerful idea. If someone doesn't bear the consequences of their own decisions, you shouldn't trust what they say. In the other words, don't listen to someone telling you what to do if they have nothing to lose when things go wrong. Taleb calls it symmetry, the idea that in any decision, action, or system, there should be a balance between risk and reward. If someone makes a decision and gets the upside when it goes right, they should also face the downside when it goes wrong. That's fairness, that's integrity, and that's a skin in the game. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Suddenly you start looking at the world differently. You notice how many people make decisions for others without taking any risk themselves. Politicians send people to war. Financial advisors push risky investment they don't hold. Health influencers talk about fasting and diets while snacking in the private. They all have one thing in common. They talk, but they don't pay when they're wrong. And Taleb is angry about it. Not just in theory. He's lived this. He was a trader. His money was on the line every single day. If he was wrong, he lost. Period. That kind of experience builds a very different kind of wisdom. One that books and credentials can't teach. Here's the cool part. This idea isn't just about economics or politics. It applies to your personal life too. Like, have you ever given advice to someone that you won't follow, or judge someone from a distance without actually knowing what it's like to be in their shoes? Taleb would say that's having no skin in the game. And that kind of behavior, it ruins trust. So the next time you hear someone making big claims, whether it's a friend, an influencer, or an expert, stop and ask, do they pay a price if they're wrong? Because if they don't, maybe they shouldn't be talking. That's the power of a skin in the game. It filters out the noise. It rewards people who live their trust and makes you more responsible for your own. Imagine you're at a restaurant and you're deciding between two options. Option A is the chef special, highly recommended, delicious looking dish that everyone is talking about. Option B is a random dish you never heard of before, barely mentioned on the menu. Doesn't have a fancy description, but it sounds interesting. So you ask the waiter, which one do you think is better? The waiter leans in and say, "Well, honestly, option A is great, But if you're asking about the most popular dish, people who get option B tend to come back to the restaurant more often. Now, at first, you're puzzled. Why would anyone choose the less known, less glamorous dish over the popular one? But then you realize there's something special about people who choose the lesser known option. They have a stubborn, unshakable preference. And in that stubbornness, they shape what the restaurant must offer. That's the minority rule in action. And it's a concept Taleb introduces in A Skin in the Game. And it's one of the most powerful yet often overlooked idea in the book. Here's the thing. When a minority groups hold an intense, unwavering opinion on something they're willing to fight for even against the majority, they can shape decisions for everyone. It sounds strange, right? How can a small group of people change the rules for the rest of us? But Taleb shows us that it happens all the time. Small minorities with extreme, rigid beliefs don't just stand their ground. They push for systemic change, influencing the majority in ways you might never notice. Let's break it down with an example that hits home for most of us. Think about food labeling. There's a growing number of people, let's say a very small, dedicated group of health enthusiasts, who start pushing for organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, sugar-free labels on all food products. At first, it sounds niche, right? Why should everyone care about a small group's preference? But here's where it gets interesting. These people aren't just talking about their preferences. They're creating standards. They're creating a movement. Eventually, you find organic and health-conscious labels becoming a standard feature on supermarket shelves. And now, even if you don't care about gluten-free diet or non-GMO foods, you will still end up choosing the product that have those labels. Why? Because the restaurant of our world, our food system, has changed based on a stubborn minority that made enough noise. The minority rule isn't just about food or label. It affects politics, societal norms, and even business strategies. You see it in activism. A small group of passionate people have always changed history, from civil rights movement to environmental campaigns. They can go from being an unpopular minority to a force that shapes the majority. And what's most interesting about the minority rule is that it doesn't require a majority to be right. It just requires that the minority is persistent and intense enough. It's a classic case of being loud enough to be heard. If enough people stand firm on their beliefs and push for change, they force the majority to adjust. And that's how small groups can shift cultures, markets, and even entire countries. Now, Taleb isn't just talking about any small groups. He's talking about those who have skin in the game. People who will suffer the consequences if things go wrong. The health conscious group demanding clean food labels aren't just talking. They're buying and eating those products. They're paying the price for their choice. That's why their preferences are so powerful. So the next time you heard about a small group demanding change, whether it's about social issues, food, or technology, take a moment to think about their skin in the game. Are they in the game? Are they willing to pay the price if things don't work out? If the answer is yes, their influence might be more powerful than you realize. Picture this. You walk into a room filled with so-called experts. They've got their degrees, their credentials, and their polished speeches. They write in books, made predictions, and influence policies that affect millions of lives. They talk with authority, making it seem like they know everything about everything. But here's the catch. When you look closer, you notice something strange. None of them have any skin in the game. This is what Nassim Taleb calls intellectual yet idiot, or IYI. These are the experts who are highly educated, highly visible, and often given authority over matters they don't truly understand. They talk a good game, but they're detached from real-world consequences. And Taleb argues that it's precisely because of this detachment that they often get it wrong. Let's break this down. The I by I is someone who has a theoretical knowledge, maybe even a PhD in their field, but has never had to live the consequences of the decisions they make. They work in universities, think tanks, or advisory boards, and they're consulted for their expertise. But there's one major flaw in their expertise. They don't understand the risk they talk about. They're in the one making policy decisions that impact millions, but they're sitting comfortably, unaffected by the fallout. Taleb gives us an example from the world of finance. Think about the economists who predicted 2008 financial crisis. These were people with prestigious academic backgrounds, yet they were completely wrong about the state of the economy. They didn't lose their job or their money when the crash happened. They kept their cushy position while millions of regular people lost their savings, their homes, and their livelihood. This is the I by I in action. Experts who fail because they don't have a skin in the game. So how do we spot an I by I in the wild? Taleb gives us a few clues. They're often overconfident in their predictions because they have no skin in the game. They'll say things like, "This is the way things should be." But when things go wrong, there's nowhere to be found. You'll find them in conferences or academic circles, basking in praise, while the people who actually do the work, those who are affected by their decisions, are left to deal with the consequences. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into a skin in the game. This book has challenged us to rethink everything we thought we know about risk, responsibility, and wisdom. Taleb's idea will make you look at the world differently. So much of what we do is dictated by those who don't feel the consequences of their actions. But now we know better. If you found this review insightful, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to Book Review for more deep dives into the books we're reading. And if you've read A Skin in the Game, drop a comment and let us know what's your biggest takeaway from the book. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll catch you in the next one.